Welcome to week 5 of Rebuild Mark. I'm Mark Still. 7 weeks to go until Unbound Gravel 200 on June 1st. This year, I made the decision to hire a coach. I hired Kristen Legan to help me get ready for the event because, frankly, I didn't trust myself after last year, and it's just been too long away from the bike to expect to trust myself for that. That was an excellent decision. I've made more progress than I could have imagined. I did a 90-minute workout this past week that just a few weeks ago I couldn't have even finished, let alone finished feeling really strong. And also did a 4-hour race simulation ride this week in incredibly windy conditions, and I just couldn't wipe the smile off my face. So I remember back in the day, I loved those kind of crazy hard conditions, windy or rainy or whatever, and I always smiled through them. And it's not that I feel like I'm where I need to be. I certainly have a long way to go, but I've made a lot of progress just to have that smile on my face at that kind of ride because it was really windy. And I'm just excited. I think I give Kristen a lot of credit for even feeling like I'm slightly optimistic that I've got a pretty good chance of finishing this year. Lots of things go into that. Lots of variables, lots of things can happen. But at least I feel like I'm making really good progress on riding the bike itself. And speaking of the bike, I hadn't talked about it a ton, but I continue to be impressed with that bike. First of all, the fit's really good. And as I mentioned before, 56 centimeter specialized bikes have always fit me really well. So there's that. But that's just a fun bike to ride. It's really not a bike. It's at least 3 different bikes when you start moving around the settings on those 2 different future shocks up front and in the back. It's just fun to ride in general, and it really does make a big difference on rough terrain to have that kind of shock absorption going on within the bike. So that's been, I don't know if it's a surprise or not, but it's certainly cool to be out riding a bike and feeling that way about it. And in longer rides, it gives me something to do, noodling with those settings and trying different things out. My wife recently bought some Apple AirTags. We hadn't had any of those before, and we're Apple ecosystem kind of people. So I put one of them in the saddlebag of my bike and thought, well, it'd be good to keep track of that. But then, as will often happen, you talk about these things and ads and information start showing up on social media. And I found on Etsy, somebody was 3D printing these little devices that do 3 cool things. 1, they're a place to stash an Apple AirTag. 2, they use the mounting brackets on the specialized saddle that I'm riding. And 3, it's also a Garmin Varia mount for the rear-mounted light and radar system. That radar system is very cool, but the mount that comes with it's kind of lame. It's just an O-ring kind of strap that goes around the seat post, and it's always getting in the way and getting moved and all that stuff. So this locks all that down. This little device I bought, I paid $38 for it, which is kind of a lot for a 3D printed thing, but it's a lot cheaper than buying a 3D printer and figuring all that out. Works pretty well. Not the most polished thing. It certainly looks like somebody 3D printed the thing, but everything lines up and it works pretty well. It gets the Varia mount, the light part, up higher in a better spot to be seen by cars. So all in all, pretty cool. And I know I've talked a lot about tire pressures, and I won't do a lot of that today, but when I was talking last week with Coach Kristen, we were discussing tire pressures, and she had a lot of really good input on the wider tires and what pressures I might be running. But then she reminded me of something I hadn't used in years. Silka has a tire pressure guide, and it is incredibly valuable, lots of detail. You put in all the different variables, and it spits out recommended tire pressure. Obviously, each tire is a little different, so you still have to pay attention to those things. It did back up the pressures that I've run the last couple of rides, which is about 28 up front and about 30 in the back. That with the tires I'm using, the Specialized Pathfinders, doesn't feel squishy. Nothing's bottoming out. It's got great grip in the corner. I think that's about where I'll be. Based on the Silka tire guide, they give you things like gravel level 1, level 2, level 3. Around here, we're 1 and 2 level gravel. Kansas obviously is probably 3 and 4. So I may go a little lower there, but I think I'm in a good spot. But I wanted to bring that up because that was a great piece of advice from Kristen. That tire pressure guide is really nice. So I suggest you try that out if you're curious about tire pressures. I've been trying out some new nutrition products for me. Tailwind Nutrition, haven't ever used it before. so far so good. I like the lighter flavors to it. I don't like heavy flavors when it comes to those kind of products. Mixes up incredibly easily. Just put it in the bottle, give it a shake. It's all good. I've used so far both the endurance fuel and the recovery product, and both of them, I like the flavors. They're easy to digest. They don't cause any gut issues so far. And that's really important when you're going to be drinking that for the majority of your fuel for probably 15 hours or so, 14, 15, 16 hours. So I'd love to know what you guys use for nutrition. Have you tried Tailwind? Has it been something that worked for you? So far, I like it a lot, and I get to talk to the founders of the company, hopefully later this week, have a little interview and talk about why they founded the company, what they use the products for, because they are both endurance folk themselves. In fact, they're getting ready for a big event in New Zealand, and see if they've got any tips for me on how to use their products more effectively in June. And remember, this is a group project. I want to help. So how can I support you in whatever crazy ventures you're after? What equipment are you thinking about? What are you using? Put something down in the comments and let me know, and I'll do my best to get answers for you. You can follow me along on the rides at Strava at Uphill Still, of course, here on YouTube, and slowguyonthefastride.com, and at slowguyonthefastride on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. If you're out this way on the Front Range of Colorado, let's go for a ride. I'm getting to the point where I feel like I could ride with other people and not just slow everything down. So if you're out this way, shoot me an email at mark@browntimemedia.com. In fact, use that too if there's questions you want to ask that you just don't want to ask in the comments. And I'll see you next week.